Matt, welcome back to another episode of I'm a Software Engineer. What next?
Good morning, James. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Before we get into this week's episode, I did want to make a request to the engineers
Warning,
or
warning, warning, self-promotion incoming.
anyone listening out here that maybe enjoy the episode and wouldn't mind getting notified when another episode is released, just to hit the subscribe button, which will be on whatever channel you're listening to help us grow a little bit. I think that's all the housekeeping for today. I did want to actually ask you something, Matt, before we get started on this week's topic. No self-promotion here, or maybe for you. Last week you were wearing a t-shirt, and I didn't actually get to point it out. And that's gone now. But I can see, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but there's a different t-shirt this week.
Yeah,
Missile
yeah.
Missile Commander.
Yeah. I'm going to go through my these arcade video game pathology, and wear a different video game T-shirt each episode.
Nice. I like that. I like that. And this one this week is Missile Commander, was it? Missile
Missile
Command.
Command. Yeah. It's actually going against my better instincts, really, because we were talking just before we came on about the use of military metaphors in tech conversations, like attack plan and battle plan and all this kind of stuff, and so how I try and avoid that. But most of my 80s spare time was involved trying to hunt down 20-cent pieces so I could put them into video game machines and play arcade video games. So anyway, everyone's going to have to suffer that vicariously through me.
I like that. I look forward to seeing next week's
hmm
t-shirt.
hmm
So this week, Matt, I wanted to talk a little bit about when the right or wrong time might be to leave your role as an engineer. I obviously speak to a lot of engineers, and one of the questions I ask is, why are you leaving? Sometimes I think the reasons aren't as valid. So I guess starting off, in your experience, like, do you think there is a right and a wrong time to leave your role as an engineer?
Oh yeah, I've seen people make the right decision and make the wrong decision quite a few times. So there's a lot going on here, and it's not always about the employee. Right, I think that'd be the first thing to say. So there's an old saying about people don't leave jobs, they leave bad managers. Or they don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers. And I think that's really true. And it actually goes back to one of my kind of principal, prime directives that I've had over the years, which is the best way to be happy is to find good people to work with, which I know sounds easy to say, but really if you don't have good people, then you really should be looking for something else to do. I mean, look, some people are happy just to turn the handle and so that stuff doesn't matter. But if you're the kind of person that really gets a lot of direct fulfillment out of your work, then you probably want to be around good people, because that's where the best learning opportunities happen, and so on. Again, easy to say, but on this particular point about leaving for the wrong reasons, I think sometimes people are forced into leaving because they've run out of room to grow, either themselves or the business has kind of forgotten about them. And I think you get this situation sometimes where the only way to make a move, the only way to get that next increment of learning or title or salary is to change jobs. Now, up until probably 18 months ago, 2 years ago, this was a relatively straightforward thing for engineers to do. It was definitely a seller's market. I don't think, James, your view is more relevant than mine, but I don't see that to be the case at the moment. And I'll give you a very personal example. I'm looking for a short term. This job application, this opportunity is closed for anyone who's listening. So please don't reach out now because it's shut. It's closed. If you look, because you'll be hearing this after it's happened. But I put a little note out the other day I wanted just someone to do a very short bit of 4 week sprint with me on a bit of software that we're building. And I had so many applications for it. It was crazy, and I made the mistake of putting my Calendly in. I say mistake. I mean, I did it intentionally. I put my Calendly in the note in the forum, and I thought I was posting this on a pretty quiet niche forum, for Elixir programmers. And my Wednesday involved me from 6 a.m. till 5 p.m. in half-hour blocks, back to back, interviewing whatever it was, 14, 15 people in a row, and they were all great. Like, I mean, with a couple of exceptions, they were all great. And I thought I was just going out to like my little niche Elixir community, and there'd be two or three people that would pop up. So it's clearly a buyer's market at the moment, and there's a lot of people around. So the idea that I could just jump from job to job, maybe that's no longer the case.
No. Sounds like you were doing something very similar to me that day.
Yeah, yeah,
I could
yeah.
have
Well,
given
I
you some
don't do
advice
this.
on the link.
I could have used it, right? I really could have used the advice, because it was one of those moments where you realize that there's experts who know what they're doing, and then there's like amateurs and journeymen who come along and sort of say, "Oh, I can just do this," and then you realize, oh, okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff here I really didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, that could have been sorted over, a couple of questions over a text rather than.
I just didn't, what's silly about it, right? I just didn't think about it. I went, oh, I'll just, like the word just, right? I'll just do this. It should be banned because it's the root of vast amounts of mistakes and evil. I'll just do this. Okay. Yeah.
So have you found someone anyway? You're not
I
looking
think
anymore.
so. Yeah, I think so. We had some, it was really good. The quality was really high. I mean, but that's, I mean, I'm going to play my book here, as you well know. The quality of there's a strong correlation between high quality engineers and functional programming, just as a rule. And so the
Yeah.
folks that are in, and it's because there's a bit of an intellectual hurdle to it. I think that's a bit different to what people are normally taught when they learn to program. So there's sort of a selection bias thing going on with
Hmm.
functional programming, and the Elixir community is full of really really smart people, like really really high quality people who've gotten there, through after a lot of experience writing software. And so when you ask that community for someone to help you, you get some pretty good candidates.
That's a good thing to know. Um, so back on the theme of when to start, when's a good time to look. One thing I guess I want to cover off is that I think there's no one size fits all here because people actually have genuine reasons, and it's not all about like high performance, for example. I think sometimes it might be that, you need a role that's got more flexibility. So there's always valid reasons. A lot of the people I speak to, I feel like they have a valid reason. It may not always resonate well with wherever they're going to, or want to go to. But one thing that I would say I get a lot of that I kind of wanted to dig into a little bit here is engineers. It looks like to me they're often looking to move because maybe they can't get that promotion that they feel like they deserved, even though they might not have been that long. Sometimes it's under 12 months. And so they think, well, I can get that promotion if I go somewhere else. And sometimes it might be valid, but I feel like after doing that a couple of times and just jumping for that promotion, whether it be salary or title or whatever, you can really see it in their motivations. Like, what are you looking for? And it's often not about the product or what they're building, or it's all about like wanting more money a lot of the time. And then their reasons for leaving, they don't really have good reasons. So um,
I don't know.
how
I
do
think I
you
think leaving I think leaving for a salary bump's not a bad reason. Um,
know?
yeah, I think people don't. I don't know. It's very easy for me to sit here 30 years later and kind of make proclamations about how easy it is to do this and that, right? And I look, I'm very well aware of my biases. Um, I think people just feel unheard, right? I think that's kind of where it starts because I think I need a salary increase, or I think I need a title increase, or I want to learn something new, or I don't really like this tedious nonsense that you're forcing me
Mm.
through. I'm sick of filling out TPS reports. Sorry, that's a kind of Office Space reference that you obviously did not get. I can tell by the look on your face that you did not get that reference. Okay, sorry. One for another. So there's a fantastic film called Office Space about how sort of mind-numbing it is to work in a cube farm, in a kind of white-collar cube farm office thing. And this guy's manager keeps getting the main character to fill out these TPS reports, and no one really knows what they're for or what they mean. But it's anyway. So yeah, okay,
I'll have to
forget
watch it.
that. Yeah, it's a
Sorry,
good
Matt.
film. It's a very good film. It's a very good film, full of really quotable quotable lines. Sorry.
Matt,
Yeah, no one wants to. If people want to be heard, right? They don't want to have to fill out another TPS report. So, and it's at that point where they make a decision to to do something else. Like I said at the top, I think this is not an individual. It's not a problem that it solely rests with the employee. There's some mutual responsibility here. And I guess sometimes some managers or some businesses just don't care.
maybe it's maybe it's a better thing to dive into is when is not the right time to leave. Like,
Mm.
because I think everyone has reasons to leave. But when I work with a lot of startups and they're in quite a high intensity, high performing type environment, which to a lot of people sounds appealing, yet I don't feel like the motivations of some people I speak to, I think they want to work in that environment, or they think they want to work in that environment, but they're not necessarily showing the right attitude for that.
Actually, I want to make a really good point here, right? Because what this really going on, like when this works, is when that old joke about no, I want you to want it, right? Like I don't want you to do something, I want you to want to do it,
Yep.
right? Like
Yep.
you kind of the pivot of where the motivation is coming from is an important point, and I think that did you see the one? My other mate, XDB, Jason Waterman, just posted a vomit emoji on this. Did you see that the other day? This
No, I
guy
didn't
did
see
this.
it.
Some VC did this big screed about how 999 is the new, or 969 is the new. No, is it 996? Yeah, 996 is the new like sort of mantra. And this some VCs going on about how Jack Ma said that they all work from 9 till 9, 6 days a week.
Yep.
Whatever, and this is how it works in China and whatnot, and it was just this screed of nonsense about how this is the only way to succeed. And anyway, it was really Jason, XDV, he's a good bloke. He just put a vomit emoji underneath it, and I just went 100% this, but it sparked this huge. I'm surprised it didn't come up in your feed. This huge.
I reckon I have. Now you say that like the 996, or I think I did see it. I don't think I took a lot of notice or paid a lot
Yeah,
of
well, you
attention
did
to
the
it.
right
Yeah.
thing because it was just toxic, right? The whole thing was just toxic. But what I would say, like my response to it, I couldn't be bothered writing too much of a response to it. But on this point, you're absolutely right. A startup is a particular kind of environment, right? It's let's for the sake of the argument, right? Let's just say it's like saying Premier League football versus National League versus whatever versus Sunday League. If
Mm.
if you no one's going to want to expect to play Premier League football and train, Tuesday and Thursday nights from 7 till 9,
No.
because that's the expectations and the rewards are crazy. Now, if you want to work, and it doesn't necessarily mean to be a startup, there are certain businesses that are just full on and very intense, and there isn't any way around it, right? Like if you're a forex trader, you've got to be on the floor at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 or whatever it is in the morning, and
Yeah.
you're just on in front, and you're there for the whole day and blah blah blah. And interestingly, at 4 p.m. when the market's shut, or whenever market closes, you're off. You don't have any work to take home, right. But for that time, you have to be, and if you don't, like, there's no one would do that with the expectation, oh no, I need a 2 hour lunch every second day. Like it's just not how that business operates. And this is the same in startups. I think there is a world in which if you want to be successful, you've got to want to do it,
Yep.
right? You've got to want to do it. And
Couldn't agree more.
hiring people who don't want to do it is just as bad as the people going into it. You can't go into that environment and not realize that it's actually going to be pretty intense. Now, if you don't like that, that's fine. You can go and do something else. Now, what I would recommend is not going and sort of, turning Jira tickets in an enterprise. Start your own business, right?
Yeah.
Make your own rules, right? Again, coming from me, that's very easy to say, but the answer, yeah, I don't know. I feel like VC standing on the outside from very entitled positions, telling people that the only way to succeed is 996.
Yeah.
Right. When the vast majority of VCs are standing there, big wads of cash, setting fire to them. Right.
I think that everyone measures success differently, right? Like, I would love to play Premier League football, right? But most of them don't have what it takes to
The
do
talent
it.
or the commitment, right?
So
it's two things:
almost
the talent or the commitment.
well, talent and commitment. So if you think about it from the engineer perspective, you've got to know what it is you actually want. Like, do you want a role that's just like, I can turn up, I can code, and I can go home? Or do I want a role where I'm in a high performing environment, which is going to take a lot more work, but for those engineers, it's like exciting. It's like,
Yeah.
when you say, it's 5 days in the office, it's like, more the better, You might have to work the odd weekend. Yeah, no worries. Whereas the ones that are not on board for that, they want this cool, YC back startup, but they don't actually want to put the work in. So
It's subtle though, right? Like it's subtle. It's not one or the other. This is the kind of
yes,
point I was trying to get to. Like you, if you want to motivate smart people to really go beyond themselves, you've got to get to a situation where they want to do it, right? Just simply me wanting you to do it is not enough, right? You end up
yes,
then in a sort of toxic relationship, and this is kind of what I mean. So it's okay if everyone is on board and I want you to do it and you want to do it, like
mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it works. But you could get this other situation where I'm not really up for this. I want the rewards, but I'm not happy with the costs. Okay. And then you sort of get in this passive aggressive situation. And then you get the equivalent from the other side, which is management, like clueless management who are going, well, we're just hiring anyone. And then we're going to just demand that they do these unreasonable things when there's no reciprocation of those demands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone loses in that situation. Everyone
Yeah.
loses.
So any engineer listening, they need to be clear on what they actually want. And that may be that they're either at a stage or they have worked out, well, actually, maybe I don't want all of that. Or maybe I would love the idea of that, but for me, I just want something that I can turn up, and leave at a reasonable hour.
So the cost is time, right? Or your attention, but the return is not financial typically because the average expected return value of options and so on is zero. You have to discount them to zero. But what you get
Well, it can't be the average, but low.
It totally is. No, or let's say because there's a very small number that have big returns, but the vast majority, if you've got an employee number, look at the data. If you've got an employee number that has 2 digits in it, right, you're already past the point where you're going to get helicopter, or not even helicopter.
I see what you mean.
Like retirement money in any kind of exit. So there's the Googles and the Facebooks and these big names that last. They come along quite rarely. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
And there's plenty of businesses that make tons of money, have big exits, but the vast majority of those returns go to the founders and the VCs. Okay, that's just the nature of it. If your employee number has 2 digits in it, you're probably outside the big payout. Okay, like the big promise that startups give. But here's the other thing. I think people miss this, right? The most likely valuable return that you're going to get from working in that kind of high pressure environment is actually time compression. You get to learn a lot in a short period of time. Okay. And that ability to sort of compress your learning into a shorter period of time, that's super, super advantageous because then you can start to bank that experience. And then you get to a point where, okay, now I can start making decisions. I only want to work 4 days a week. Okay. I'm going to be an IC. I'm going to go deep on this topic. I'm going to be an IC and I'm going to contract myself out to 5 clients and I'm going to be the guy that knows how to do blah. Right, or the person who knows how to do this, or I'm going to go into leadership, management and leadership, and that has its consequences, right? I call it 4/3 time. I wrote a post about it a while back. This idea of 4/3 time. So you've got your main job, right? That you're working with the people around you, and then learning, and then in the other third, right, which is the 4th third, which doesn't exist, then you've got to do all this kind of leadership stuff as well, right? And so if you don't realize that going into management and leadership, it's not for you, and you probably shouldn't do it. You probably shouldn't do it.
Hopefully what people can take away is have a think about what you want before you decide whether you want to move. Maybe what you've got is the best thing and you're chasing something that actually you don't really want, or you want the glory but you don't want to put in the work.
Or maybe you do, right? Maybe the change is what you need. And I think this again applies both ways. So sometimes people choose to leave and other times the decision's made for them. And in many cases, whether they make the decision themselves or the decision is made for them, it's actually the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
Really, it's the best thing. And even if it's just so you get a moment to reflect and go, okay, where am I and what am I going to do next? That boundary condition is the thing that gives you the opportunity to regenerate.
That's a good point. And some people will thrive in different environments. I reckon there must be a lot of engineers that would thrive in a high pressure or high paced environment. They're just not there and they're just not getting it out of them.
Before we spoke, I wrote some notes down. There's this sort of checklist thing that I was thinking about, and if you kind of get like 2 or 3, more than 3 on this list, that's like the time to start thinking about polishing your CV, right? And so it's like, have I stalled my growth? Am I still learning? Are the people around me still helping me? I think this is probably the most important thing in almost anything you do. But do I have values? Are my values aligned? Right, and I think we spoke about this last time. If your values are aligned, you can kind of get past most things if you've got agreed values. Is my health suffering? Like, this is a big thing, burnout. And burnout's a trailing indicator. The actual physical effects of burnout are a trailing indicator of the fact the person's burnt out. So you need to be very self-aware to know if you're burning out. Do you agree with the vision? Can you get out of bed in the morning and think, yeah, I know why I'm going to work this morning. It's because I can see this vision. And if you've got an offer to go somewhere else, that may make the decision. So it can't hurt to be on the lookout from time to time. So if you're ticking 3 of those or more, that's probably a reasonable signal that it's time to move.
That's good. We'll put those points in the notes. I think that will be useful for people if they want to refer to them. I think we'll pause there. We could keep talking about that, but
Let's finish up there, James. I'm not sure we answered the question. I think we asked a few more than we
yeah,
answered.
I think we made it more confusing for everyone out there that's thinking about
Well,
leaving.
not so much more confusing. I mean, maybe it's for others to tell. But I think this is a tricky topic. When's the right time to leave? Should I say? Should I go? And I'm not sure that there's a canned answer for that you can just give to anyone. I mean, there's a checklist there that maybe have a think about those things, but ultimately it comes up to you, down to the person. And if you're not, I would just put it to this: if you're not learning, I think that for me is the trigger to go and find something else.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. If you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe and much appreciated. Yeah, well, thanks again, and we will see you all again next week.